pull is. The pull is, oh my God, everything that's said here is the truth of my own being, and it's a knowingness of it that you can't put there's no value, it's invaluable, and it brings you to this sense of presence so fully that the truth just lights you up. Right, Arthur?
Absolutely. And just before we get started, if we have 2 or 3 minutes at the end to fill, I would like to do something on Jean Klein, but it comes from a different book, but it's very short. Just if we have time.
That sounds good. That sounds good to me. I just want to recognize the board real quick. Loving everyone here. Thank you for being here. Annika, Henrik, Jackie. Is that who's, let's see, Jackie. Let me see, expand on that. I can't read the whole name.
It says Jacqueline Garou.
Oh, Jacqueline, welcome everyone. And you guys that are not on the board, welcome also. We love you. And I just appreciate everybody being involved in this activity and the loving of truth with us. And this is another awesome chapter, actually 2 chapters, 15 and 16, as I have titled them. And next week is our final chapter on this book, and Annika will be our co-host. I love Annika's sharing as well. She is hot off the press every time she comes on. You're awesome, Annika.
Yeah.
And one of these days, I'm going to come and meet you in person. I'm going to come to Amsterdam and meet you in person, and I'm looking forward to that. So don't die the body on me yet first.
Wait till he comes, then you can.
Till I come, then let the body go. Little humor on the something that's sometimes not so humorous, but anyways, she's laughing. So funny. So anyone here, before we start, real quick, anyone here that's interested in a motorhome that's 20 years old, $13,500, is parked in Dallas, Texas, write to me at bill@billfree.com, and I'll give you, I'll connect you with my brother Joe. And that's as much as I'm going to say about that, just because somebody might want a really nice coach that's low priced, that is in really good shape. It drives 75, 80 miles an hour with no problem. I like to drive 65 because at 75, it gets about 5 miles to the gallon.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, that's 50 cents a mile. Right. Right.
That's not bad.
No, it works. It works. It's your hotel room. It's your hotel room too, and it's a great place to sleep. And
a couple hundred miles costs $100.
I've got. I mean, I'll show you real quick. I've got my refrigerator. I'm not much for cooking, but I've got food in there. I got real food in the refrigerator. I cooked steaks last night outside. Yeah.
So you don't have to go out every night.
Right. It was fun. So, Arthur, this is I love both of these chapters.
Yes.
And
I'm sorry.
Well, before we get started, I just want to pause and just being aware of being aware. Just coming into this moment of recognition. And this is it. This is everything right here. This is the presence of being. In this moment of being aware. And thank you all for being with us. Arthur, thank you for being our co-host this week. And the mic is all yours. You're welcome.
I just thought chapter 1 got right off on the get-go, right in the first paragraph.
Chapter 15, you mean?
Yeah, first chapter. Yeah. Yes, okay. Chapter 15 on page 117.
Yeah.
Stillness does not mean a peaceful mind, for a peaceful mind is something and stillness is no thing. The mind can be temporarily calm, but this is not stillness. Once we have awakened to the stillness beyond the mind, the latter will cease to be agitated. It will be reduced to its function, that is, to movement. And I love that. When
Yeah.
when I'm talking with people, we have this impression that we need to quiet everything down, like the mind, the body. When we get into timeless awareness, there's just experience. And it's just an expression of us. And in this, we can allow the mind to do whatever it wants. And that's when it goes to function. It does what its purpose is. Same with the body. It's
Right.
not who we are, but it's a very small fragment of us.
Yeah.
It's how we experience ourselves, how we experience experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking with someone yesterday, and they asked me, "What do you do every day?" And I said, "Nothing." And they were insinuating, like, do you meditate a certain amount of time, this and that? And it was like that a long time ago, but it's just beingness. It's just presence.
Mm.
It's stillness. And he likes to use listening also as another term for stillness.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, Arthur, because that first paragraph, that description that you just read is where a new default takes place, because everything is just being experienced, and at the same time it's being known by being that it is the nothingness, and it's the everythingness seemingly at the same time. And in that recognition that everything is included and beingness is what it is, it has this quality that you can't put a description on it. You can't put the full feeling on it, because the feeling can't even be described.
No, what it is life. And life can't be experienced because it's not an object. Life is beingness.
Yes. Yes.
Allowing.
I'm about to run out of my battery. I got to find my cord.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead and keep going.
Yes. It's about allowing experience to be itself, because experience is us. We're blessed with this presence to experience the love that we are. I love the analogy when we talk about experience as the play on the stage and we're just in the audience.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect way to start as a witness. Step one, as Rupert would say.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting that these ideas and using these words, they give you a reflection. They give you some kind of a way to put a description to it, but they fall short of fully describing the wholeness and the fullness of it.
Yes, I think early on we look for an experience, like what's it feel like, or what's it look like, and it's not an experience. Timeless awareness is life. It's the knowing of life, and the knowing of experience is knowing our life, knowing beingness. You know, the living meditation, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. Yes. So let's look at the board real quick. It's called, Annika says it's called Life and LIVIBG. What does that mean?
She was talking about going out and having fun at the casino, I think.
Okay, I got it. Great to be here with all of you. What size is it? Oh, it's 34 foot RV, Class A, that you drive it. It's got 55,000 miles on it. Yeah. the question to ask another would be, how are you being? Not how are you doing?
Yes.
How are you being? How's it being?
I never
Right.
ask anyone how they're doing. I
Yes.
know how they're doing. It's just good to see you. It's good to be
Yes.
with you because we're
Yes.
just being.
Yes. Yeah. This is a, let's see, I underlined some, or it says a little bit down further from where you left off reading on page 117. It says, it is inaccurate to say that in stillness there is no longer mind function. It is the nature of the mind to move, although there may be spontaneous moments of non-movement when the mind is suspended in wonder, astonishment, or admiration, or any unexpected appearance that finds no reference to previous experience, or the moment after a desired object is obtained. The moment, it's like, here it is, got it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, okay, what's next?
The mind's supposed to be active. That's its job.
Yeah.
From stillness, when it's time to take action and function in experience, this is what awareness uses to present the action to be taken. It uses a thought.
Yeah.
So it's a tool that's a part of us, like the body. The body is just a sensing function for us to know experience. We know experience through sensing, and the body's a tool we use to sense experience, to know experience.
Yeah.
But it's not who we are.
Right.
But it's a fragment of what we are and use to know ourselves.
Yeah.
To experience ourselves.
Yes. And the beauty of knowing having this understanding is that no longer are you subject to the emotions or the senses directing your experience. No longer, I mean, they can be part of it, but they can't be the primary and a draw. They can't, you suffer at your own attention.
Yes.
To the experience that, and the belief that's given to it, or the attachment that's given to it. And when you learn this, when you have this way of knowing, then it's just another experience. It doesn't become so primary and draw you to believe that that's you.
Right. And when it does, we just step back as the witness.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we are getting our attention drawn into experience, we just recognize it.
Yes. Yes. And Hillary just typed in, suffering is the belief in a separate self.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jean Klein speaks about that a little bit further on, maybe in the next chapter. On page 118, I put a double star here on the second paragraph from the question that says, how can I get rid of troublesome ideas?
I love this.
I know. He says, such ideas, accumulations from the past, appear without being asked. If we intervene or control them, this only prolongs them. The person wishing to control is of the same nature as the object he wants to control. If we do not intervene, the emphasis leaves them and they are reabsorbed. I love this. They are reabsorbed into our silent observation.
Absolutely. When we're not becoming better thinkers, we're not becoming better feelers, better senses. We're not becoming anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anything that rises up, we don't need to do anything with it. It's just fact at the moment.
Right.
And present. That's all it is.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about this that I've noticed in this one in the last year is the deeper the understanding, the more I notice a more restful, non-intentional experience that I have. It's a non-intentional, there's nothing needs to be intended, really. I mean, and this is a big step for new thought people. This is a big step for positive thinkers and goal seekers and all of that, because we're used to, in new thought, thinking about setting the intention or setting the goal. And in one way, the goal gets set by itself if you just leave it alone.
Yes.
And it's not really a goal. It's just an idea that's rising, that a pull takes place.
Yes.
Where like my younger brother that met us in Vegas, he like, I want to say Friday afternoon, decided he's going to fly to Las Vegas. He just had complete total abandon of, and he has a big job, a big concrete pour going the next day. He just wanted to go have fun. He had fun. He got all of his superintendents all set up, got it all set up. But spontaneous Freddie, he's just in the joy of it. I'm going.
He's living life.
He's living life, and everything went smooth. Everything happened exactly as it needed to, and it was simple. It was easy. It wasn't like, oh, I need to go. I better. He just said, well, let me see what my boss says. Let me see if I can catch a flight. Let me see if this happens. All of a sudden, bam, he was there.
Yeah.
It was allowing the experience to occur without giving and it making a need to go or an intention even. It was just spontaneously occurring.
Sure. It's just desire that comes from the stillness, from the peace that we are.
Yeah.
It's not a desire taking you to happiness.
Yeah, right.
It's just peace showing up in activity.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And also he loves his brothers, and he knew that joy would be at the top of the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do we say here? Simone, welcome. I haven't seen your name here yet. I love that about not having to have an intention. Yes, I know. It's so good.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yeah.
Intention is a form of resistance to whatever's showing up.
Yes. Yes.
When a thought shows up, it comes from our joy. We could say, yes, let's go to Vegas. Set the plan. Maybe you don't get there. Maybe you do. That's okay. That's just experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when we try to manipulate it a little bit, even if we think it's to the good side, it's a form of resistance.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a step though, because sometimes you get stuck because it's in doubt, in I can't do it because of this. And so an intention sort of brings you out of a fixed location of stuckness and is successful in activating you from there, but it's only a step. It's a step from being in a hole, really. To set a goal is trying to bring yourself out of a stuck.
Sure. Setting goal or making a plan. I mean, in function, you make plans. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they just won't always come to fruition the way you might want them to.
Yes. Yes. You don't have an attachment to the outcome.
No.
The idea comes. If it happens, great. If it doesn't have, like this motorhome that's for sale. If it sells, great. If it doesn't sell, that's great too. We'll see what happens, and if it doesn't sell, maybe it's going to call me back to use it again sometime.
Sure. You may bring it home and use it. Who knows?
I won't bring it to Maine. I don't want to winterize it. It was purchased in Florida. I don't want to bring it up into the salt air.
Yeah.
I mean, into the salty streets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. Who is, okay, so Me Good says Zen essentially is about finding that spontaneous action. Oh, it is? Okay, Zen. I don't know the study of Zen Buddhism, but that makes sense. Acceptance is also connected to being. Yes. Welcoming. Not I mean, I like the term that you gave in your last teaching or teaching before last, Arthur, when you just said, just welcome everything. Yeah. Welcome it. Don't just accept it, but welcome it.
Sure. Just be open to it.
Yeah.
It just shows up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that acceptance here is accepting everything as it is, meaning don't touch it. Just allow.
Leave it alone. Yeah.
Yeah. And Hillary says, who is it setting the goal? Well, it can only be, it's the mind that's setting the goal that has fixed itself in a location in time and space.
All function happens within time and space.
Yeah. And Rick says, in reality, acceptance is what we already are.
That's perfect.
Yes. It's our essence. Acceptance isn't what we need to do, level of thought. Rather, it's what we are. Very, very well put. Thank you, Rick.
That's why sometimes it's good to be careful which words we use to describe the undescribable.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you mean, Hillary, by a good question to ask? What's a good question to ask? Oh, who is it setting the goal? Yeah, right. Got it. Good. Yeah. So, Arthur, let's move on.
Yeah, Kevin, I just had the next paragraph circled also. I had the one you just said.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is the upward path which strives step by step towards realization in any way compatible with the approach you were talking about? Jean says, listening does not depend on the level, whatever that level might be. Trying to exalt one level or pass from one to another is utterly useless. It's like becoming better thinkers or becoming smarter or a better father. The becoming takes us away from who we are.
Yes.
Because we're already being. So I like that one.
Yeah, I do too. When we seek, we have a goal. This is just what Hillary was saying.
Yeah.
We are seeking a result. This goal is based on the already known. It thus prevents us from being completely open to the unknown, to the completely new. Yeah, it is. It's not just subtle. Setting goals as a means of or intentions, I think we move. It just naturally occurs that moves away. That moves to the sideline.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that happen to me. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, well, I don't have an attachment to very many things, and it's just a resting place where all of a sudden something occurs. It was like going to get this motorhome. All of a sudden, I was watching me set up a reservation to fly to LA, and I'm going, okay, I'm going to get the motorhome. I didn't say, well, I need to sell it and da da da. All of a sudden, I was noticing that we weren't using it very much for the amount of, it just sits in storage all the time. It seemed like a waste of an asset. And I want it to be used because they do have life, they do have life expectancy in time, this thing where they wear out. So it'd be good if someone else is using it as a resource to have fun.
It's temporary like everything else.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Rick said, okay, so good question. It brings us back to a direct experience. Thank you, Hillary. And then Jacqueline said, the energy of this state has a very pure and high vibration in which things can easily come to you. So true. The state of being where you're just in acceptance you're resting in being, it leaves a fuller, more open space for things to flow in and out of, so that you're more likely to have this harmonious flow in your experience.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. And then Rick also said that's not why it is not a matter of effort. Being isn't a matter of effort. Effort or seeking is moving away from it. That's why so many traditions emphasize the concept of surrender or relaxed. Yeah, resting. Rest, accept, and trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move to 119, if you will. I put a little line, a star under the archetype thing, but I'm going to move down to, you can go back up if you want to, but the last paragraph here says, the question said, Hindu tradition tells us that all our suffering originates in avidya. What is avidya? And then Jean Klein said, avidya is the identification with what we are not, our physical and mental functions. Through clear-sighted vision, we realize that these functions are inevitably dependent on their knower, vidya. When the accent is displaced from the object with which we have identified, the ego, the state, thought, or function, this is where I put a double star. We find ourselves spontaneously in silent listening, in non-function, in being and knowing. What we deeply are becomes living presence. What was previously seen as ignorance is now experienced as an expression of knowing.
And I had skipped a line and I went, being the knowledge wipes out the duality of knowledge and ignorance.
Being the knowledge wipes out the duality of knowledge and ignorance. Yeah.
All function, all experience comes from timeless awareness. Goes on within awareness. It's made up of awareness. All function, though, happens in time and space because it's experience. It's a temporary experience of our beingness.
Yeah.
Experience.
Right. And known, as it's known, it's just known. There's no suffering. There may be a pull, but it's not going to be attached to anything that's tangible.
Right.
It's not going to be attached to an outcome. It's not going to be attached to neediness or wanting.
No. And and from awareness, in function, when there's something to do, it shows up. Awareness presents what needs to be done. You put on your father coat, your husband coat, you know, you're acting. You know, I'll be the father for now. It's just experience. When there's action needed, it shows up. Awareness shows up.
Yeah.
Okay, it's all done. You're back in the stillness.
Yeah, and it's simple. It's easy.
It's so simple.
And it's so close, we can't see it.
Yeah. Because it's not objectified.
Yes, it can't be seen.
Right.
It can't be seen.
It's so simple.
Yeah.
Beingness.
Yeah.
Effortlessness takes no effort.
Yes. Rick said, in reality, the me can't be in acceptance. By definition, the me is just the opposite. The me is just the opposite. Jean Klein's term for listening, from wonderment to which it also points. Jean Klein's term, listening, from wonderment to which it also points. Yeah. This is a knowing far beyond the intellect. The intellect may attempt to point at it, but it isn't it.
We are beyond mind. We are beyond experience. Once this shows up, we're just open. Experience is just an expression of us, no matter what it is. But from the stillness, there's no more me and you. There's no more I want what you have. Need and desire have dissolved. And that's, if desire, experience is going to change, it's going to change from the truth. The Jesus and Buddhas have all come through. And from duality, we're still seeing the same experience. But we are beyond that mind that we think we are. Once that is present, there's no more, there's nothing to worry about. It takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Let experience be.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a amazing, it's just a shift, really. It's a shift from an old thought system. It's a shift from what we thought we were to what we know we are. And the experience is enhanced by the understanding of the nature of being.
It becomes what it is, love.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Once that timeless awareness, I'm not going to say that because if we get into the other thing that's in there, I'll leave it alone.
Let's, on page 120, at the bottom of the page,
yeah.
It's from the question, could you talk to us about the suffering that results from fragmentation? And at the very bottom of the page, he says, desire or lack lead back to their source. If there were no reminder nor intuition of its origin, there could be no desire. This is where this was an interesting point that Jean Klein made. He said, this is where we need a master to point out to us that all objects point the way back to our true being.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know that a master is necessary. I feel that possibly a teaching is necessary. An understanding, a teaching that opens the way to understanding, as we're all having right here in this experience in the book club. It's just understanding is opening, and then that understanding is finding verification and agreement with consciousness and the experience that consciousness knows itself to be having.
Yeah, I would call teaching and teacher, such as Rupert or Jean Klein, a master.
Yes.
He's speaking to us.
Yes.
Back in the 80s, we didn't have the access to teaching like this. So to be pointed in the right direction, we had to physically be with a master or a sage or a guru. Now they come into our home.
They're right here.
Yes.
And we're talking about it, and we're finding agreement in many witnesses.
Yes.
Verification. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why Rupert calls it the time of the direct path.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's a direct experience. It's what Hillary just typed on the board. Direct experience and understanding are necessary. Absolutely. Because direct experience makes it owned, or makes it known, where you have your own proof, so to speak, by direct experience. It's not something that you're believing in, it's something that you're knowing.
Right. But from a master teacher teaching, at first we take what is said to us in faith. And that's when we start the self-exploration to see
Yes.
what truth is.
Yes. Yes.
But without it being presented, I wouldn't even know to turn around and take a look.
Yes.
There has to be a starting pointer.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why it's, you know, that's why the teacher that's the most effective teachers are the ones that demonstrate the truth, even in everything they say, in everything they do, or the expressions. But to analyze it is to get lost in the object of experience. But just to the awareness, something happens when you observe the experience of being.
Yeah.
And when it's spoken, like Jean Klein, Rupert, Francis Lucille, the teacher Muji, it's spoken from a place of being. Now the culture of it is going to be different from teacher to teacher. Like Muji's expression is going to look different, and to some they would say, "That's not I don't want the guru. I just want what the guru is pointing to."
Sure.
Right? And it's the same thing that Rupert says. Don't look at me. In fact, I've heard him say, "I'm not your teacher." I disagree with that statement.
Well, first he is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually, teacher and teaching get dissolved back into timeless awareness, the stillness.
Yeah.
And that's when we're living life, we're being.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's easier. I mean, to me, it's where life becomes simple.
Oh. Yeah.
It becomes simple. And guess what? You can fly to Vegas and go have a blast. You can gamble. Now, you don't want to do things, I think, this is just my own opinion, that are criminal. You don't want to hurt other people. You don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to step in front of a train and let the government lock you up.
Right. That's not coming from stillness.
Right.
Duality can use the teaching as an excuse to be dual, to stay as an ego alive.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Yeah. Right. What is so Rick said Kashmir Shaivism, or the outward path, highlights the importance of all objects. I don't know too much about that. I can't really speak to that.
I would say all experience is awareness taking shape, form, name. That's why it comes and goes and changes. It's just experience. We're just experiencing ourself. It's all experiences. Mind, thought starts calling it this and that, or me and not me. But from the stillness, once that starts to be released, there's no more work to do.
Yeah. Well, William Price calls it a felt understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to describe.
Yeah.
I would describe it now as a beingness. It's just presence.
Yeah.
It's a knowing. It's now, it's here, it's being, it's life. It's hard to describe.
Yeah.
It's not an experience, though.
Right. Right. There's a question at the bottom of page 121 that says, the questioner says, what difference does it make whether we intellectually understand the teaching or not? I prefer to just sit in your presence. And Jean Klein said, when you emphasize intellectual understanding, you can never understand. Your understanding is dead. You must go further. When the intellect has really understood, it knows that it has no more role to play and spontaneously eliminates itself. Then you live in open light.
Yeah. This is when awareness becomes aware of itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
An active mind is never going to be at peace. A trying mind.
Right. Right. I like what Rick said here. A good teacher is simply pointing to what we see and recognize within our own being. They are not convincing us of anything. They are only pointing to our own essence. Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we have to do our own self-exploration. Once we know, we can explore, who am I? What is life? What is experience? We have to turn around.
Yeah.
But personally, I never would have known I could until somebody pointed for me. It started with Rupert, Ramana Maharshi, and then Rupert. And the progressive path before that would guide me that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It answers, the progressive path sort of is it's a place for questions to be asked and answered in progressively the understanding to provide a space for the understanding to come in. And then you realize that you don't need the questions anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The question comes from the answer now.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Hillary said, ask oneself, does this come from deepest love and understanding? And that is a good benchmark. When I did that interview, the first interview I did with Rupert in San Francisco, I asked him about the Holy Spirit. And I said, can we talk about the Holy Spirit and the accessing, what is the direct path? What would it describe, or how would it describe the Holy Spirit, the influence? He calls it what Hillary said here. He said, I wouldn't use that word or that term. I would call that my deepest love and understanding. The Holy Spirit is our deepest love and understanding. So it's almost like a place of wisdom to the open mind, a place of knowing, where it's a place where movement, inspired movement, is formulated and known. And Rupert termed the Holy Spirit my deepest love and understanding. I love that, because now it's coming from it's coming from that place of presence.
I think my experience with the direct path teachers that I have studied, none of them use religious language other than the word God. And I think there's a purpose to that. My deepest love and understanding is my stillness, is how I would describe that.
Yes, yes.
But I think society has so many different angles and wrapped up in different types of religions that I think the direct path stays away from that on purpose.
But let's go deeper into this for a moment, because the description of the Holy Spirit, or my guide, that's inferring that it's a place where ideas or movement emerge from. So it's a place that where inspiration comes forth from the silence. It's movement from silence.
So you're saying it's like the call?
or the pull. It's where
It's like
spontaneity emerges from for action even.
a desire to know my true being.
Yeah.
See,
Movement. It's inspired movement.
when you say Holy Spirit, I just think of my stillness, resting there.
Yes.
That's how it strikes me.
But it's the Holy Spirit to me is duality, and where what you just said a minute ago, that non-dual teachers really try not to use religious language for that reason, because it implies an entity. Like when I read a paragraph to Rupert from A Course in Miracles that I thought was pretty profound. And it was like 4 sentences, and it was an interview I did with Rupert in Garrison, and I read the paragraph. It was workbook lesson 361 to 365, all the same workbook lesson. And I read it to him. It was about 4 sentences. And when I finished, he goes, okay, I counted 4 entities there in that paragraph.
Sure.
The direct path only is I.
Yeah.
The direct path is only sees I. And so all of those entities are a form of duality.
Yeah. I say the direct path goes the opposite way. It starts at timeless awareness. And when I think or feel myself away from timeless awareness, it's showing me how to let that drifting go and just be.
Yes. I like to lose the religious language as well. I like to lose God. I like to lose Holy Spirit. I like to lose Jesus as because they imply something else.
Yes.
And to go through something else to get to the stillness is just it's a step, and it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Society has taken the word God and made it so powerful that when I tell you you're God, I'm a sinner. So it's just, that's why I don't use the word God.
Yeah. I use it less and less.
Yeah.
And when I teach A Course in Miracles, I express a place that I invite people to that God has no name, and the use of these entities is really a dualistic term, and I invite the beings to be open-minded to be aware of that.
Yeah.
To be aware of the dualistic language of A Course in Miracles.
Well, in duality, God's just like the ultimate word. So
yes.
Why fight with that when you can just leave it out?
Yeah. And if you're going to be gentle about it, you can say, okay, for just this time where we're talking, can we use God? It's synonymous with love. Yeah. And just say love says this, love does this. And because it brings it closer to your experience, where it's known by I, or by you, by consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have some great comments. I'm not sure why William can't see Rick's comments. I couldn't tell you why, and Rick's not using a raised hand. But Rick said the direct path could probably also be described as the pathless path. Yes.
Yes.
Krishnamurti, I love that guy.
Yes.
We do use the intellect to get beyond the intellect. Thorn to remove the thorn. Yep. I've heard that before so many times, and it's true.
You got to start where you are.
Yeah. You got to start where you are.
Right. We all start in duality.
Yeah.
Or we're not even bothering with it because we're not in duality, right?
Yes.
So we got to start where we are.
Yeah. And Rick hit the nail right on the head. The thorn to take the thorn out, or the toothpick to take the debris out, and then you throw the toothpick away.
Sure, but once the thorn's out.
Yeah. then there's nothing else is required, is necessary.
That's right.
And that's where I feel many of our participants are they're showing up in this place of being. You all that are following this book study, you're here because we're in this understanding. We all see the same thing. You can see from the comments on the board that we all have the same clarity of understanding, I feel. Yes.
Yes.
And Helen, forget this chorus, come with holy empty hands, totally unto your God. That's workbook lesson 189, paragraph 7. I know it by heart. And it is where we say, okay, God is.
Yeah.
However, if you're still, you can be following those workbook lessons and the language of God says this, and if you can be in a total dualistic mindset, following the course and not know the I, not know the self to be the I as being, as current in the ocean. You can know about it, but you don't have the direct experience until the direct experience reveals itself to you as I.
But that's perfect.
The language can get you, can be a little bit of a slow, a stuck point.
Yeah.
We have one more chapter, and you still wanted to share something on Jean Klein for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
This last chapter, Arthur, I want you to get into it because the first sentence says, we are awareness.
Yes. And the second sentence says, if we were not aware, we could not take notes of the states we find ourselves in. If awareness were only a mental function like all others, it would disappear like all functions. When you have a thought, a memory, it happens right now, it's proof that you're aware of. That's the only way you can have a memory thought, because you are aware. It's just thought that says it happened back then.
Yes.
That memory thought's happening now, but
Yes.
you know it because you were aware.
Yes.
At that moment.
Right.
And that's the same awareness that's present now. That never changes. It's the only thing in experience that never changes.
Yeah. It says in the second paragraph, last sentence, well, I'll start in the second paragraph. This awareness is present in deep sleep and in interval between two thoughts. The pure consciousness we name I am is beyond mind and body. It is not subject to discontinuity. All sensation and facts are entirely dependent upon this pure reality. We can imagine absence of feeling, absence of perception, but never absence of consciousness. You will find this difficult to understand as long as you have not experienced eternal presence. And I would go, I have added, as long as you have not recognized eternal presence. Because I think that eternal presence is always present. It's just not recognized.
It's the mind that bails it.
Yes.
It's a thought that bails it.
Yes.
What else? I had the, what did I have here? Oh, I had the last paragraph and into the next page. Perceiving is entirely independent of the perceiver of the perceived objects, which are but concepts. Perception is living, the only reality now. Each perception is a non-dual experiencing of pure awareness. Each perception is what shows up.
Yes.
That's all it is, what
Yes.
shows up.
Yeah.
And we're open to all of it because it's an expression of who we are.
Yes. Yes.
And mind is just relaxing,
yes.
chilling out somewhere. It's not needed yet. Awareness will call it when it wants it.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. This, you know, Real quick, Rick, you are posting to only panelists. So you're only posting to me and Arthur. Somebody made a comment on the board and I'm looking at your post and you're only posting to the panelists. You need to post to everyone.
Click on the bottom to where it says two.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can switch over.
Well, it's right underneath it. It says all panelists and attendees.
Yes.
So post to all panelists and attendees and everyone will read your post, Rick, because they're really good. Rick's got some great posts here. We don't want everyone to miss your posts.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And one more thing, Arthur, on that idea, perception used to be like a bad word, or perception. I used to think that perception was time and space based, but it's not. Perception is awareness based.
Perception is knowing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perception is knowing. It's when it gets described that it comes into time and space. It's when it gets interpreted in some kind of a way of what's being perceived and how it's being perceived. Now we brought it into the mind.
There's perception, and he goes on and he says, subsequently we may say, I thought this or that. Now it's no longer knowing. It's gone into a thought duality. Or I heard a chord in C major, but at the actual time there was no thought, only the perception appearing in the I am. With deep conviction, this fact will take root within us and we will no longer need to make an effort to remember. It is this true understanding that turns the I am into reality. That's great.
Yes. Yeah.
And then he goes on.
Go ahead.
The I am shines in its glory when you are free from the two volitions, doing and not doing.
Yeah.
Just resting, relaxing, stillness.
Yeah. Or goal setting, or planning, or any of those
Whatever
things.
you want to call it.
Those things will occur, but they come from a different place. They occur, but they don't really occur.
They're not goals anymore.
There's no goals anymore. Right.
But there
is a Q&A. Oh, it says from Rick, only awareness is aware. Right.
But there's nothing but awareness. I would add to what Rick said.
Yes.
So even the thought, the little me needs to get out of the way, is awareness. All thought is awareness.
Right. So we have 5 minutes left.
Do you mind if I do?
No, let's do it.
Okay, cool.
See what you got.
I'm only going to read a little bit, but it's wait
a minute. Rick goes, being is meing.
I like that. That's very good.
Yeah, good one.
This is where's it start? Why am I not?
What book is it?
It's from the Book of Listening, Jean Klein.
Okay.
And it's this little section is called The Great Forgetting, but I'm only going to read a little bit, but it's about 10 pages long. And you could just do this 10-page study.
You're not going to read 10 pages, right?
No, I'm only going to do a paragraph.
Okay.
So let me read it. We know what time is. We know what space is. We know what experience is. How could we know these things if we did not, in some way, also know what timeless, spaceless, experienceless means? Can we know white without the reference to black? Can we know dark without the reference to light? I got a couple more. It is essentially nothing, yet in some way we refer to this nothingness very often. It is the background from which we function. It has nothing to do with succession, the past and future. When we discover this background, the problem of death becomes completely meaningless. When this timeless awareness from which we function unconsciously becomes aware of itself, then we know that what we are is timeless and spaceless. And we know what life is. And it does not enter our mind to even think of death because we live knowingly in this timeless background. So we know time, we know space, we know experience. To know these things, we have to know timeless, spaceless, experienceless meaning. When that sunk in with me, the light in the mind went off. And timeless awareness was just expressing. Because we know experience, but we can't know experience if we don't know experienceless.
Yeah.
We can't know good without bad. And that.
But the time, that's almost like, it's almost like a oxymoron, because timelessness says that time isn't there.
Yes.
So it's just a perception is known, or a belief is seen. But time is an illusion as an opposite of timelessness.
Yes.
Because timelessness cannot have an opposite.
It doesn't. But to know time, you have to know timeless.
Yes.
All function, all experience happens in time and space.
Yeah.
It's our infinite made finite so we can experience ourselves.
Yeah.
Time and space. And that's how we experience ourselves, in time and space.
Yeah. But we as Rupert would say, we refracted ourselves into something that is a fragment of our being.
Yes.
In order to have an experience that is partial.
But the experience is an expression of our infiniteness.
Yes. Yeah. And that has to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when someone can understand they know experience, for them to be able to know experience, they have to know experienceless.
Yeah.
They may still be veiling it. And I thought that was a great part. It's a great book.
Well, next week, we're going to have Annika back, and she's going to take us home in this last 3 chapters. I've combined all 3 chapters in for the last week because they're a couple of really short ones, but we're going to finish this book next week with Annika Borges, and I look forward to being with all of you then. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Annika, and thank you, William Price and Jenny, for carrying the torch last week while I was on a flight to LA. I appreciate that. I loved your teaching and your expression. It was so great I love Jenny's style of interview is so great. And she had a little front end piece there asking William about himself, and I really appreciated that. So I left it in the recording. I hope you don't mind. And Arthur, thank you for being our co-host today. You're awesome. I love dialoguing with you all the time, each time that we share. Thank you all for being here, and I'll see you next week. Oh, and one more thing. Pay attention, if you're watching the recording, pay attention to your links. I'm going to be including a registration for the next book club that's going to be in September. I'm going to be including it in next week's emails, because we have to re-register for the next book study as a whole another registration. So you guys be looking for that registration to show up if you want to be part of the next book, which is going to be one of Rupert's books. Until then, I'll see you all next week. I love you and I bless you. Yes, peace, my brother. Over and out.
Bye-bye.